We got Cody Stovall checking in from All Day Oklahoma State. Cody, what's going on?
Well, I'm kind of licking my wounds, but you know what? The Big 12 race was undoubtedly going to be kind of wild, so it is what it is. We did find out that our offensive line is kind of squishy, Charmin level soft, and we have the worst coordinator in the Big 12. And that's not hyperbole. I'm not just saying that because of the disastrous performance. Mark, out of 67 Power 4 teams, our offensive success rate is 65th in America. That's not good enough to win any conference.
Well, it's certainly not good enough when you've got a wide receiver core with those two top wide receivers that are really good. They've been productive in big-time play. You've got arguably the best running back in the nation. You've got an offensive line that was supposed to be a top 10 offensive line, and you've got a seventh-year quarterback. That makes it even worse.
Yeah, 20 returning starters. They don't play like it. They don't act like it. So I'm as perplexed as anybody. Realistically speaking, this O-line with 172 starts among the starters and 220 starts among the backups, this should have been the most complete O-line in the country, and we're not playing like it. We've pass blocked decent, but our run blocking has been absolutely atrocious. And you mentioned Ollie Gordon. The difference between Ollie Gordon this year and last year is last year he was able to use his vision and be patient. This year he is running so frustrated, he's just running up the backs of his O-linemen, and he's not seeing holes, he's not seeing creases, he's not bouncing outside. The offense is an absolute train wreck.
Cody, I'll make a comparison between the Arkansas game. This Utah team's better than Arkansas, so they didn't make the mistakes that Arkansas did, although they kind of came apart in the last few minutes to a certain extent. But that was Oklahoma State making plays, and it wasn't necessarily Utah making mistakes per se. But I watched the entire game, and to me, Utah was the slightly better team. It was a very physical game, for one thing. It was a hard-hitting, physical game. And Utah was slightly better, and just kept leaning, and they were better. And it seemed as the game went on, then their physicality just kept becoming more prominent, and they dominated more in the line. And then things started to break for them, and they started scoring points, obviously, in the second half. And then, obviously, Oklahoma State was able to put together some kind of flurry of hope there in the last 4 or 5 minutes. But it was reminiscent of the Arkansas game from the line of scrimmage portion of it.
Yeah, that's 100% accurate. And you know what? I have to give props to Utah because I did give them a hard time making the transition from the Pac-12 to the Big 12. But physicality was not an issue. And Mark, I've been to, participated in, coached in, whatever, hundreds of football games. That's one of the benefits to getting up there in the age is you do have a lot of historical references to think back on. I don't recall ever being at a game at any point in my life that was more torturously difficult as far as weather goes. Like the real feel was like 117. It was 101 realistically. And maybe the heat was burning my cochleas, but I'm pretty sure I heard that there was a reading on the field of 162 on the turf. I didn't see Utah being prepared for that for 4 quarters. They were more prepared for it somehow than we were.
So the big deal is that not all is lost. However, there's no cushion in the schedule. And I know Kansas State made all sorts of mistakes and unexpectedly got blown out as a touchdown favorite on the road at BYU. However, I kind of tried to catch up on that game. They made some uncharacteristic mistakes. I don't know that the game was as out of hand as it appeared to be on the scoreboard. And that result may not be a good thing for Oklahoma State, because if I know Chris Kleiman in Kansas State, they're bouncing back and they're going to play a heck of a game on Saturday. And so you got to go into Manhattan now in one of the key games in the Big 12.
You know what? This was the game that I'd circled earliest in the season as a potential loss, right? I went back and forth between 10-2, 11-1. I ended up at 11-1 because, I don't know, I let my ego get to me on the Utah pick. But Kansas State, I picked as a loss before the season started for 3 primary reasons. Number one, it's in Manhattan, which is not a difficult place to play. Number two, if you look back over the last 20 years, like 86% of K-State, O-State games have come down to 1 possession or 10 points. And third, they have a running quarterback. we struggle against a running quarterback, and with an unhealthy Cam Rising, that was my biggest concern about Utah, was Isaac Wilson and his propensity to be able to kind of get out of the pocket and break contain. He only did that a few times, but a few times is enough. And so when you have a quarterback in Avery Johnson that does run a certified 4.3, 840, that's going to be difficult for anybody to contain. And we haven't contained a running quarterback in, I don't know, years.
All right. The quarterback situation, obviously, Alan Bowman got yanked at one point and then got back into the ball game. So I don't remember how to pronounce the backup's name. Rangels?
Garrett Rangel.
So he came into the game. He's not the future. The future's on the bench is the third string quarterback, we believe. Flores?
Yeah, that's you know how that is, man. The new shiny toy that nobody's seen before is always going to be the one that everybody wants to look to. And here's what I will say. From an athletic perspective, Zane Flores is significantly better than most quarterbacks we've had in a long time. He does do things naturally that some of the other quarterbacks cannot do. But the reason that Garrett Rangel is still the number 2 is the fact that he has the trust of the offensive line, the trust of the locker room, and the trust of the coaching staff. But I can say that Mike Gundy put that to rest. It's going to be Alan Bowman the rest of the season unless Alan Bowman gets injured. That has been disseminated across the locker room very loud and clearly.
You made a comment to me that the offensive coordinator may be the worst in the nation. Is Alan Bowman one of the worst quarterbacks in the Big 12?
Yes. I mean, the consistency he lacked last year was predicated upon his platform, right? He had a propensity to get happy feet and bounce, 17 yards back, throw it in the stands, yada, yada, yada. Through spring and fall, he seemed to have fixed that. But, you never really know till the bullets start flying and the game started hitting. He did decent staying in the pocket against Arkansas. He did even better staying in the pocket against Tulsa. But when the Utah game came, the first half, he had happy feet. He was bailing all over the place. He was missing receivers, very, very wide. And then Garrett Rangel came in and didn't do any better, right? We pulled Alan Bowman because he was at 35%. We put Garrett Rangel in and he was below 30%. So, yeah, it does beg the question, right? The third string quarterback that we know is 6'3", 212 pounds and runs a 4.6 40. Would it not be time to eventually see him in there? And I would say the answer would be yes, but only if the season is slightly catastrophic. One loss is not catastrophic. If we lose 2, 3, 4 games in a row, then I imagine that we do see Zane Flores because that's kind of the transition to the new team anyways. But if we continue to win, then it'll be the Alan Bowman show, and Garrett Rangel will be the guy who comes in if Bowman gets injured.
Got Cody Stovall on the line. He breaks down Oklahoma State football over on Locked On. You can catch him every day. Again, all day OK State. The Cowboys coming off 22-19 loss to Utah. That was a little bit deceiving in the final score. They made a late push to try to get back in the ball game.
So I got to tell everybody, do not go to All Day OK State because somebody did make a fake account and they tried to do a number of inappropriate things pretending to be me that I think is going to get them sued when it's all said and done with. So don't go to that because I don't know who that person is.
Okay. How do we find you?
At all day O State.
All day O State.
Yes,
all day O State. We got it right on the banner, folks. All day O State.
Yes, sir.
Go there. All right. Any parting thoughts on the ball game on Saturday?
I will say from a defensive perspective, Brian Nardo has been slightly underwhelming during his time at Oklahoma State. It's been a lot of bend but don't break, which the bend part is when you're putting up 300 yards offensively. That's hard to correct. But this is one of the games that Brian Nardo did put forth a good plan. And Mark, you know as good as I do that if your defense only gives up 2 touchdowns and they've been on the field for 42 minutes, your offense should be at least capable of staying in the game.
All right, Cody, appreciate you being here, man. We always love to get the update on OK State. And again, everyone, it's All Day O State with Cody each and every day talking Cowboys. Huge game against Kansas State, big rivalry, and obviously supposed to be two of the best teams in the Big 12, but they better show it starting this week. One of them's going to step up. The other's going to fall back with 2 consecutive losses.
Well, I think you could say, Mark, that the loser of O-State, K-State is probably out of the Big 12 title race.
Yeah, Utah, thinking all this realignment talk. Utah got quite the cushy schedule from the conference. I don't know what was going on there.
Yeah, I only circled about 2 opportunities for a loss in their season. It was us and UCF. So go Knights, I guess.
All right, Cody. Appreciate you being here. Have a great day, man.
Absolutely. You too. Thank you, Mark.